To enjoy life is inherent. To be authentic is inherent. To be connected to family and friends is inherent. I invite you to wear your heart on your sleeve and to welcome the man who is bringing men's mental wellness solutions and awareness to the world through luxury men's fashion and lifestyle clothing, Inherent's founder and my personal clothier and Taylor Draper. Taylor, welcome to the Abundant Mind.
Thank you so much for having me, Jake. I appreciate it.
So honored to have you here. You guys, Taylor is the founder of Inherent. Inherent, again, is a luxury men's clothing line, a lifestyle clothing line that's birth and story is remarkable. I actually, interesting enough, Taylor and I only live, a few miles away, but I heard about Taylor in Florida. And it was brought up to a group of investors that we had about this incredible clothing line, where not only do they help men create armor for themselves, but they're doing so much for men's mental wellness. And I said, oh my gosh, mental wellness. I'm like, where is this place? I said, oh, it's in Colorado Springs, Colorado. So you got to be kidding me. So that's just down the road from me. Like this place that we're hearing so much about. And so we're happy to have you on today. So Taylor, I would love for you to share your personal story about how Inherent came to be. Would you mind sharing that with us?
Yeah, absolutely. What an amazing intro. So I hope I can live up to all this.
You are to yourself, man. Just be you. You're the reason we want you on today, man. It's all you.
Hey, I appreciate that. Inherent started. I've always been into clothing. So even when I was like 12 years old, I was doing design. So I was teaching myself design and web design and things like that in my room. I'm an only child, no father, and my mom was pretty absent during my whole childhood. She was always working like 14 hours a day. So I pretty much just raised myself. But I've always had an eye for design, and I've always loved things that looked beautiful. It started on the computer though, so that interestingly enough. But in 2017, I had a few businesses at the time. I had a marketing firm. I had a couple lead generation companies I was working for. And I was married to my wife, Lynn, who's an amazing woman. And at the time, though, we were not doing well. We were at a crossroads, and Lynn actually came and confessed some things to me that she had done in our marriage. We'd been married for 4 years at that point. And so I kind of confessed these things, and she was like, it's up to you if you want to stay or go. So after like an emotional couple of days, I was like, well, if I decide to stay in, will you also decide to stay in and just try? Because if we try together and it still doesn't work out, then I'll feel way better about walking away from this, because we both tried and it just didn't work out, and that's okay. And we can figure it out later. So she agreed to try, and what that meant to try for us, it looked like going to therapy 3 times a week, like one by myself, one by herself, and then one together. And up until that point in my life, I had no context of what therapy was like. I kind of always thought it was for either a mentally unstable person or like a mentally ill person, maybe. I had no context of what it was like. Nobody ever taught me that therapy is amazing and it helps you grow. And it's, I was very new to the whole mental health kind of thing. So going to therapy, I was afraid and nervous. So what I did was I showed up in a suit, because I knew if I showed up in a suit to a business meeting at one of my businesses that I would crush it at the meeting. So I showed up to therapy in a suit, and we did therapy we're still in therapy, but we did therapy for years after that. About a year and a half into therapy, we really got into our traumas, and she got into her traumas, and we just had some incredible healing happen between us. And we kind of got over that. And then I like looked back and I was like, man, I was journaling every single session and my feelings every day for what was going on. And I realized that the clothing was giving me the confidence to show up to therapy and talk about my feelings in this healthy way that I had never experienced before. So once I kind of made that connection, I said, man, I bet a lot of guys, especially in my circle, immediate circle, could benefit from this kind of concept of clothing can help you be confident. And then talking about your feelings is so important and healthy for you. So once I kind of put those two things together, I started Inherent and was like, I called a buddy and we worked on the business model together for like a couple of months. And then I was like, I think this is brilliant. I think we really have something here. So I started it, registered the LLC, decided on the word inherent because I believe that confidence that I felt was already inside, and that clothing was really what helped bring it out of me. And it was also like the suit of armor to like protect me from going into battle and this metaphorical battle of talking about your feelings and just getting into the shit.
Right.
And so we started that, and I didn't know at first if it was going to be like a full-time gig of mine. I was like, this is something amazing. Maybe I should just like grow it as my passion project while I'm doing these other things. But then in May 2020, like right when all of that kind of got set up, I got a call that my best friend from childhood died by suicide. And I really believed that if he had this community that we're building and he had this group of guys, or he had this, even just this clothing concept to like attach himself to, I really believe he wouldn't have done that. So that's when I was like, well, I think this is my sign to go all in on this. So I sold my companies and just started this, and it's been amazing ever since. We've seen so much amazing traction, like right from the get-go.
Man, what a powerful truth. And thank you so much for being so vulnerable and so honest. And that's one of the things that I think that you are a master at. And I am so grateful that you are being a voice for men's health. You know, that just recently, just in the last few years, this is finally being really recognized. Because so many men, I know Brene Brown talks a lot about this, Tony Robbins, and our some of our mentors, Brian Bogert and Dave Meltzer, who's on one of your board of advisors, my personal friend, one of my coaches. This is what they talk about. They talk about for years about being vulnerable. And I love that you shared that you were able to figure out a way to put on your armor. I mean, anyone going into battle, you got to put on your armor. But that mental discipline, that mental mindset has to happen as well. So I love that you've been able to link the two, and you are working miracles in the community with men's health. I know every third Thursday, you guys invite men to be able to come in and to be vulnerable, to be able to talk, really talk, and to have ownership and awareness about what is going on in their life. Because for years, men, we were told we have to be the knights in shining armor on our white stallion, and we have to charge in. And if we show emotion or feelings that we're weak, as opposed to, no, that can be a strength. That can be our superpowers, being able to be honest and authentic to who we are. That is inherently a truth that every single man should live. And I love that you stand behind that mission. And again, that group that we're with, Quest 7, with Dr. Sean Dale and Lacey Buck and some incredible individuals, doctors and entrepreneurs around the world. When we heard this, it was interesting. I remember the second, my wife and I still looked at each other. I remember the second we were going over these investments, like, here's this investment over here. Oh, that's awesome. Here's an investment opportunity over here. Hey, here's a company over here. And then Sean goes, okay, guys, we've saved the most exciting for last. And then he shared who you guys were, but it was what you stand for. And that is a mission that we stand with you. So we're so honored to be partnered with you. We're so honored to be able to take you to the world. And I'd love to ask you a question.
Yeah.
A lot of people will ask, our mentors, some of the most affluent, influential people in the world right now, hey, what is your mental discipline that you have to do now? But it also talks about, we have to ask the question, where were you 10 years ago? Because we have to figure out what was happening then and the steps you had to take. Because how many steps did you have to take to get here? It's not that you just woke up today. Like you said, you were very vulnerable with your past and your mother. I know that you had shared, you grew up in Alaska. Would you mind talking about a little bit more of your childhood and the lessons that you had to learn? Because, man, I'll tell you, a lot of people would have given up already then. So I would love to hear from you back then? What was Taylor going through back then? And what were the things that you had to put your mindset to in order to get where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. It's an interesting one. So I was born in Alaska. Pretty much while I was there until I was around 9 years old. So while I was there, I was pretty much just hanging out with my aunt and my cousins who were about 15 years older than me. So they were just kind of like the much older brother and sister trying to take care of me and things like that. But Alaska was such a beautiful time in my life because I loved it. We were outside all the time. I just have great memories of like sledding and hot cocoa and going to like school and getting into fights and things like that, and but in a fun way. And yeah, so it was just a great time. And then all of a sudden my mom said, "Hey, we're moving to Florida to live with your grandma." And it just kind of like pulled me out of that at 9 years old, and moved to Florida. And it was just like, no offense to people who like Florida, but it was the worst. Like I hated it. We were in Deltona, which is pretty much a ghetto. Like it's like a lot of crime there. It was we like white guys were pretty much the minority there. So it was a lot of like Cuban and African American and things like that, but like more of the gang type culture that you see, and versus like just being fully integrated. So I got jumped quite a bit because I was so depressed during that time in Florida. Like I hated being there. I never wanted to go outside. It was always too hot to go outside. All the kids would pick on me. So I kind of like turned to food, and my mom would kind of use food as a substitution for like raising me. So she would come home with a dozen donuts or like a full cake and just kind of be like, "Here you go." And then she would check out, and then I would just have this cake. So by the time I was 15 years old, I weighed 310 pounds. And it was just the most unhealthy, most unhappy, depressed, you know, clinically depressed, suicidal. And it just, that was probably one of the darkest times of my life. And how I kind of overcame that came in moving here, actually. So my mom was like, "Well, I think we're going to move to Colorado," because my aunts from Alaska were moving to Colorado. So our family was we have a very small family because all the male side of our family either died or left. So like even my aunts didn't have anybody either at that time. So it was just all the women in the family. And then each one of my aunts had two kids, and they're just much, much older than me. Like I think the closest one in age is like 10 years older than me. So not like there was good connection there, I would say, with my cousins, but not really deep connection that I could ever get to. So yeah, so we decided to move to Colorado. And when I got here, I had this moment where I was just like, okay, this is like a clean slate. Like nobody knows me here. Like I'm going to like a private school, and I'm just so tired of being depressed. So I just literally decided I'm not going to be depressed anymore. I just said, even if I just have to fake it till I make it, I'm just going to pretend to be the happiest person in the world. So I literally just did that. I just pretended. Again, knew nothing about mental health at that time. I wish I did, but just pretended and to be happy. I like went on the Atkins, which is now called keto diet. And I actually lost 120 pounds in my first year and a half of being here.
Wow.
So it was averaging like 10 pounds a month, but like, so yeah, and then by the time I graduated high school a year early, because it was in a private school, so you could just kind of go at your own pace. So I didn't, party or anything like that. I did a little bit of that, of course, like everyone does, but I really just focused on getting through school, graduated a year early, and then went to college. And that's where I really had like my heyday, where I was popular. I was in a band. I've always been a musician. So like started a band. I like got to kind of experience everything I had in my head that was what high school should have been in college, of like being popular, girls, all this kind of stuff. But it was like unhealthy. So by this time I was like 21. I moved to Denver because of my design. I like got into a really amazing job in Denver, like out of college. I actually got like recruited out of college. You know, not to be arrogant, but just because of the talent. Like I was in Colorado Springs, I was, you know, one of the best designers we had in that school. So I got recruited out 16th Street in Denver, which is like the main downtown strip, and just worked in the petroleum building for a couple of years, and I was just living it up, man. I like had my own apartment by myself. I was partying all the time with all the corporate people, and I was living life. But what I realized was I was just not kind. So like I was becoming this person that I thought I wanted to be. And you have all these societal norms that are pushed on you as a boy. That's just like nice guys finish last and all this kind of stuff. So being in a band, and I just thought I had it all. And then I just had this realization. I was like, this is not the kind of person that I want to be either. Like I went from one pendulum swing of being 310 pounds depressed all the way to this other where I was in shape, 180 pounds, doing MMA, like doing music every Friday night, all this kind of stuff, like getting girls, all this kind of things. And I was like, this still isn't who I want to be. So I decided, you know, who I want to be is someone who is kind and attracts people to me because of my personality and how much I can help them. So that's when that was when I was about 22 years old. And that's when the shift kind of changed. And then I met my wife, Lynn, and went down that whole path.
Man. So realistically, you are the modern day Karate Kid. You know, awesome. you really are. But but the mental, and it always starts here. Mm-hmm. It always starts here, and it starts here. I love the fact that you still found a way. I mean, you were put in circumstances that you literally could not control. And your body suffered for it. Your mind and heart suffered for it. And I love that literally you did mental kung fu in order to be able to combat that. And I love that you are authentic to who you really are. And you recognize, I think so many of us get to the point where we get these golden handcuffs. You know, you're in a band, you're in a job that's paying well, you're in an apartment, and we're like, all right, well, this is my life. It's paying my bills. But I love that you saw that this was not who you are. You were aware enough and had so much self-aware and self-love at that point that you had a greater vision that was bigger than yourself. And that you then, instead of just living a regular life that would have been great, you lived your potential. And so many of us, you guys, we try to just make it through life. We try to make it through the end of the day. How many times with your guys do you hear them like, yeah, I'm just trying to get through today. I'm just trying to get through the week. Well, that's every week. Yeah. Right. What have you found to be some of the biggest problems that men face today? You know, when we have, you have your meetings, and I see this with my patients as well, but what are one of the biggest problems you see with men when it comes to that mentality of just getting by? What do you think is the biggest problem? And what's the biggest solution for that you guys have found?
Yeah, I think that to address that, you have to address that men don't feel like they have permission. First of all, that's probably the biggest thing I've seen. And we have about 30 to 40 people come every month, and about 60% of those are new guys that we get to talk to. So like with Inherent, it's all about doing two things. It's about building community through these events, which is monthly and quarterly. And then two, it's about giving guys actual resources and putting them through therapy. So we have guys that will come through these huddles and we'll give them a 6-week program. We'll give them a suit. We'll get them groomed in the back. We have a barbershop in the back. And then we buy them 4 sessions of therapy through our foundation fund. So our fund will buy them the 4 foundation sessions once a week while the suit's being made. The 6th week come in, we do the final fitting with the suit. And then we say, you're more than welcome to continue this. Has this changed your life? We do kind of a little final interview with them. And we've already done that with 14 guys this year. And we're looking at 20 now. So that's pretty awesome. Our goal is 150. But getting back to your question of what do I see when guys are just trying to get by? It's they don't know that they can talk about why they feel like they have to just get by. And that's the root of it is you don't have to just get by. Like, you're in this beautiful life that you have, and you can make it whatever you want. Like, everything's just like you said, everything starts here. Everything we see started in someone's mind, whether it's a counter or hangers I'm looking at or whatever. That was in somebody's head at one point. So you can literally think your reality if you want to, but you just have to be working on it and things like that. So when guys come in here and we're like, hey, this is a safe place for you to talk. You don't have to share your deepest, darkest, but just if someone asks you how you're doing, don't just say fine, just be real with us. And that's the only rule that we have. And literally, I just see guys go, oh, wow, like, you actually want to hear about how I'm doing? And like, yes, tell me, you have permission. And it always just goes from there. Like, it's incredible. Even like being, in New York and LA Fashion Week the last couple of weeks that I've just been to, just telling, like, I've had multiple times where I'm telling somebody in New York or telling somebody in LA, yeah, this is what I do, men's mental health advocate, like, this is what my company does. And they'll be like, oh man, my son suffers from depression. And then we just have a deep conversation, like, right then and there about it. And that happens all the time. And I love that about our company, is that it just gives that permission by even just telling, like, that it's okay. And that's what we do, and we support it.
I love that. And that is a truth that we see all throughout the world. I see that in my practice. As a chiropractor, you see it as a men's luxury clothier and lifestyle brand. You guys, this is a truth that is all over the world. And you alluded to something, or not alluded, you talked about it, where men don't believe that they have permission to talk about it. And what I have found is you have to ask and ask and ask, and then finally they're like, okay, we're actually getting real here, and I can get to this. November 23rd, 2012. I had a severe traumatic brain injury. And that at that point, I was in a hospital for a while. I was in the neuro ICU. I was just 2 years in my career. I was on fire. I was going to change the world through chiropractic, and then literally couldn't talk right, couldn't move, couldn't think, had a pretty near photographic memory. It was gone. And I had, my wife was in a high risk pregnancy with our third child. And I thought, oh my gosh, where's my life going to be? And I had to be able to find within myself the ability to not only physically heal, which I started doing. So, we're so grateful for the things that we do in our practice, started healing physically, but I didn't realize how much of a mental toll it was taking on me. Whenever I had a headache or a migraine, which was pretty much every day for years and years and years, my kids would take a little sign saying, quiet, don't wake daddy, daddy's sleeping, with a big X on it, and put it on my door when I had to shut out because the migraine was so bad. And I literally realized years later that it wasn't my physical pain that was eating me alive. It was my mental anguish that was eating me alive. And therapy brought that out for me. I was with a therapist, and we were talking about my physical injury. And I talked about the injury for probably a minute or two. And I realized that the root cause, because you talked about root, the root cause was I felt like I was failing as a husband and father. I couldn't provide like I could before. I couldn't play like I could before. And I started having these limiting beliefs because of the limiting factors of my body. And I was able to, and I'm still healing. We still have to communicate and do therapy and address these issues. But getting to the root cause is so critical. We see constantly throughout the world, and when it comes to these mental health issues, is that we typically pull the weed and we kind of pull the top part off, but we don't we don't unroot it. We just get the top part. You have to unroot these issues, clean them out, and then come up with a path of success. And I love that. That is what Inherent stands for. You guys stand for that, for getting down to the root causes of mental depression, of anxiety, of self-hate and shaming. You get to the root cause, and you give a physical token, a physical armor, along with the mental love and attention from healthcare professionals, and a community, a tribe of people that are loving, understanding, trusting, and encouraging. I love that this is Inherent. How powerful, so powerful.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's been amazing, man. I can tell you, like, this is the most fulfilling I've ever felt. Even if, like, even if everything gets taken away from me and I'm just doing this by myself, I'll still feel so happy to be here.
I love that. Taylor, we are so grateful to stand by you. How do people who want to be able to support you and Inherent on your journey get a hold of you? How do they? So number one, how can they help with the Inherent with your foundation? And then on a personal, wonderful side. So I just got fitted for a few suits, a couple of jackets, which I am so excited about. Unbelievably excited about. Taylor and I, we went through. We did an incredible. I mean, how many point systems, or how many?
We did a 47 point measurement system is what we do. Yeah.
47 points. I mean, literally measuring everything. And it was, I mean, this suit I am so excited about. So how do we get a hold of you to, number one, again, understand and support you, your mission and foundation, and then how can the world grow more through our life? You know, how can we increase our lifestyle through Inherent?
Awesome. Well, our website, thisisinherent.com, is where you can learn more about us. You don't have to just be in Colorado for us to service you. We actually had a guy out in Cincinnati just buy a suit the other day, and we do a Zoom with you and get you measured that way. No tape involved. We have a pretty cool algorithm that we use for that.
It is.
If you are in Colorado, then yeah, come on in and get the full experience. We'll have your drinks ready and have your music playing, and it's a fun time. If you'd like to donate directly to the foundation, on our website, there's a foundation section where you can donate. Every $600 milestone is 4 sessions for a guy, just so you know. So anytime we get up to $600, we've helped one guy through that 6-week program. And our social is all at This Is Inherent as well. It's pretty consistent. So we like to say, you are enough and this is inherent.
Absolutely. Taylor, thank you so much for teaching us about vulnerability today. Thank you so much for sharing your mission. Thank you for sharing your armor, your physical armor, and your emotional. Thank you for sharing the things that you've had to go through in your life to learn these lessons. Thank you for sharing that we don't have to do this alone, that we shouldn't do this alone, that there is always, always, always help. There is always people to help you. There is always enough. There's always an abundance of love and happiness and joy. Thank you for teaching us to be authentic to yourself. Thank you for teaching us that even though you feel like you've made it, if it doesn't light your fire, doesn't light you up, and doesn't speak to your heart, and you feel you're not being authentic to who you really are, and you're not living your potential, thank you for sharing and showing us the journey of how Inherent was created. You guys, you can create the Inherent within yourselves. You can create an armor, not only physically through dressing appropriately. Man, clothes make it the man. I love being able to dress clean, and it's not a pride thing. I feel good when I can present my best self. But when I know up here that I am authentic to who I am, that I love the people that are in front of me, and that I love what I get to do every single day. Every day I get up in the morning, I say, I'm going to go play. I get to play today. I would pay to do what I do. And I know you would do the same. Thank you for teaching us these valuable lessons. We appreciate you. We love you. We support you. And we look forward to having you on the show again.
Thank you so much, Jake. Really thankful for you. Grateful to be here.
Appreciate you. Take care.